Welcome to the 2024 Q3 North American Users Group. We're happy to have everyone here with us today. Just to go through a few things, we've got a little presentation we go through when we start off. I'm Cindy Meyerson. I'm like the newly elected or voluntold president of DVNAUG. But we have a great board. We've been working together for quite a while, and I'll just say if anyone is interested in joining the board or anything like that, we would love to have more participation. We're always looking for that. Anyway, so let me just talk a little bit, about what is Data Vault. So for those of you who are coming in who have never, or maybe Data Vault curious, I'll say, have never really taken a class, or maybe you've done a little reading, I just want to go through this slide and kind of introduce it to you and maybe reiterate some of the standard concepts in Data Vault. So first of all, Data Vault is a methodology, it's a solution. And it's intended to help you or your business accomplish an enterprise vision, right? In your data warehousing, you can say data analytics and information delivery capabilities. And at its whole, Data Vault has three foundational pillars. At the very base, or the foundation of Data Vault, is the methodology, which is built upon in architecture and also in a model. Now, most people are familiar with the model, and that's what they talk about all the time. And I'm going to just tell you that the model is about 20% of the overall solution. All right. So if you're focusing on the model, you're missing about 80% of what the solution actually gives you. So some of the benefits of Data Vault, of following the Data Vault solution and the methodology, is that you get these benefits. Like, you're going to hear today a lot about business focus, agile. It's also guaranteed to be 100% auditable to the source, right? So your data warehouse is auditable, fault tolerant, pattern based, repeatable. You can read the slide. It's also multi-temporal. Some people will say that Data Vault is bitemporal. It is not. It is multi-temporal always. So highly performant and technology independent, all right? And across all of these, what we call pillars of Data Vault, are people, process, and technology, right? So it is not about the model, folks, and I just need to really emphasize that with you. And it covers everything. You can't have a complete solution. You can't include things like agile unless you're including people. So when it comes to the model, most people are familiar with hubs, links, and satellites. I need to emphasize this is a logical data model first and foremost. As the technology and platforms have changed over the years, the logical model becomes more and more important because some platforms simply cannot support the concept of relational hubs, links, and satellites. And yet the logical model of Data Vault will always hold up. And so this one I wanted to say about this, if you haven't had any information yet on Data Vault, let us know. The board's always happy. The group is always happy to give you more information or talk with you. So today we've got a presentation by our very own Mink, and Mary is exceptional, I would say, in our community as a professional with a lot and years, I'll say a lot years of Data Vault experience and data warehousing and data management experience. And so she's done a myriad of things over her life, but I won't get into all of that. But we'll go through, Mary will do her presentation. Dan will join us, Dan Lindstedt. He's going to talk about some of the things that Mary covers regarding this business-centric view of Data Vault, which is where we start. From the business perspective. We're going to hear from our sponsors. We're going to get about a 5-minute break. And then we have Jamie Knowles coming in to talk to us about Data Vault on ERStudio. So you'll get a little bit of, a view of ERStudio from Jamie. We'll have 10 minutes for Q&A. And then we've got prize winners. So if you opted in into the meetup and provided your email, then your email was pulled through a wonderful little electronic spin board, kind of like Price is Right. And so anyway, we have names to call for prize winners. And then we'll talk about our next event. So with no further ado, let's look at this. So here is our board. All of these members, everything we do in DVNAUG is voluntary. And so you can see who our board members are. Again, we love to have volunteers that are willing to help us in other areas. So each one of our board members supports us throughout the month and throughout the quarter to get these productions done. So let's hear from some of our sponsors. Who is up first? Okay. Resultant.
Yes, that would be me. Thank you. So my name is Gaiman Rodriguez. I'm here on the Resultant team alongside Pavitra and Mary Mink. But just for a quick overview into what Resultant is and what we do, we are a data services firm. We have about 20 Data Vault professionals on our team, but we also have a larger support team that is working on implementing data warehousing programs, including strategy, data governance, things like data pipelines, data visualizations, data science, basically everything that can fall under that data analytics warehouse. And we have great partners like VaultSpeed, Coalesce, all three of the big clouds. So if you guys are in a situation where you feel like you may need somebody to talk to about your initial initiatives or any projects or challenges that are coming up on a regular basis, please feel free to reach out to myself or anybody here in the DVNAUG community that is working with Resultant. Thank you.
Thanks, Gammon. I'm waiting for my slide to change. Okay, Tony.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Tony, also known by Antonio. I'm working for VaultSpeed for quite a while. So if you're eager to know about VaultSpeed and what we do, I will have a big intro, a small intro today, and eager to answer any questions if you could reach out to us. So what VaultSpeed all about? So we are a data vault automation platform. Our key capabilities to make sure we can start automating your data vaults and your data products, so also your presentation layer. In that perspective, we want to make sure that you really spend time in your business process and business model and business conception model. And everything about the template is really our responsibility. So we work with managed templates that we actually manage and create and keep up to date for you, so that we can actually really, in 2 sprints, automate the entire data product with VaultSpeed. And in that perspective, our goal is not only to automate your first phase, that means your first scope of your data products, but use automation for every single iteration over and over again, as was mentioned by seen in the beginning. So Data Vault is all about agility. Start with the scope and enlarge it depending on your requirements. And we want to automate every single iteration with VaultSpeed. That's what we do.
Thank you, Tony. All right. So is John Steinbach in for Seven Rivers yet? I don't see John. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next slide. All right, Peter.
Hi, my name is Peter Bellis. I'm working for Data Vault Builder, and we are a business-centric Data Vault automation tool. So we are not looking only at the model, but we are looking how to generate business value. And the main idea is that we have a central data model, which is a business data model, where you can talk to data engineers, where you can talk to business users and bring everybody together. And we're covering everything from staging to loading data in the raw vault, denormalization of the data vault model into like dimensional models and other models, putting in business rules, the business vault, operations. And a nice thing that we have is that we have a fully Git flow based process. So you can do distributed development, you can do CI/CD. And now starting with version 8, that is right now in beta, we're adding as well data governance. So we're capturing as well all the business metadata about data retention periods, data owners, and extending really the scope of what we cover here in one platform. By this, replacing up to 9 different tools. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. All right, so Pavitra, with no further ado.
Hey guys, my name is Pavitra. I'm on the DVNAUG board. I am the secretary, and I'm going to introduce our first speaker for the day, Mary Mink. So Mary has been architecting data warehouses for over 25 years in a variety of industries, such as insurance, entertainment, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, law enforcement, court systems, etc. She has presented at the Worldwide Data Vault Consortium multiple times. She is a strong evangelist for data governance and basically has it integrated into the data architecting at the get-go. So she has also been in the IT industry for over 35 years and has been certified in a variety of methodologies and technologies. She is the founder of the Data Vault North American User Group and is a board member on South Florida TDWI. In addition to that, I have known Mary on multiple projects on which she's been our data architect. And I can speak to the fact that in addition to being, an extremely dedicated professional and really good at what she does, the thing that struck me most as, initially as a client and now we are colleagues, but is how much she cares. She is very, very, very vested in the success of her clients and a passionate mentor and teacher, and will ensure that she gives her very best to you. So her talk today is called Mary's Secret Recipe for Data Vault Success. So take it away, Mary.
I'm going to stop sharing. And Mary, you have it.
Yes. Hold on, let me go ahead and share. Hey, am I sharing?
Yep.
Okay, let me go ahead and put it in presentation mode. All right, thank you so much, Pavitra, for that nice introduction. I'm super excited to be here today to share what I've been doing over the past decades, I guess. I've been architecting data warehouses, like Pavitra said, for, gosh, I want to say, I think the late 90s, okay? And so I'm really excited to be able to share with you what it is that we're doing and how do we stay business focused, okay? So we're going to go over what is Data Vault, which I don't have to do much on that because Cindy did a really good job. But I do want to talk about the different components because my whole presentation is based on the 3 components of Data Vault. Also, what we're going to talk about, what type of data warehouse do you have? We're going to go over the different architectures that are out there, over the years that we have to choose from. And I personally like a hybrid approach, best of all worlds. And I'll go over an agile approach that we use, top down, starting with the business at like Cindy had iterated, and a bottom up. I'm looking at the data or the technology approach on each step that we do. I'll also go over the steps that you have to do to get to that business-centric finish line. And then at the end, what does applied Data Vault success look like? So what is Data Vault? Again, Cindy did a good job. My favorite part, the 3 components, and the whole presentation is based on this, that applied Data Vault is that you don't just do the model, okay? You're doing all 3 of these components, the model, the methodology, and the architecture. Throughout my presentation, you're going to see either this green triangle, you'll know we're in the model, or you'll see the blue methodology, we're in the methodology area, or the architecture. You can't do a data vault, you can't be applied data vault without all 3. My favorite part about the model is that it's pattern-based, And because it's pattern-based, we have a number of Data Vault acceleration tools. I like to call them acceleration. They're not ETL tools, they're acceleration tools. They get you to the end goal quickly. It could be within a day. As long as you know what you're building, it's really awesome. So then we have and we have a few of our sponsors on the call that are in that space. We've got Warescape with Red and 3D. We have Data Vault Builder. We have Vault Speed. There's more out there, Coalesce. So obviously this is growing, okay? We've got the methodology as a second component. And the key to that is it's business oriented. Okay. It is agile, which is awesome and consistent and repeatable, but business oriented is the key. Then we've got the architecture. And my favorite part about that is it's platform agnostic. It's not tied to any one platform. You can build your data vault in Snowflake or Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, wherever you want. Okay. It doesn't matter. It's going to be the same. It's a different way of thinking about it. Okay, so how has history influenced our data solutions? It helps us to learn from the past and to build the best techniques and to get synergy between all of the great ideas that are out there. And I've been doing this so long, I've been able to experience what worked and what didn't. And so therefore, I bring the good things along with me from all the different aspects. So this is a little data warehouse history. These are the influencers, and I believe that two of the influencers are on the call, or will be definitely. I think John Giles is on the call, and also, of course, Dan Lindstedt, and he will be speaking after me with giving his words of wisdom. So here you'll see, okay, Bill Inman, and he introduced in 1992, he introduced the enterprise warehouse bus architecture. And then in 1997 or 6, Ralph Kimball introduced the star schemas to us. And then in 1998, Dan introduced Data Vault, and he built that because he was challenged with working with and making actionable like 3 petabytes of data at the Department of Defense. And so he needed a way that was going to be performant, that was going to be scalable, that was going to meet the business needs and be, sorry, all of these things that Data Vault is, right? And so that's when he came along with that. Now that was Data Vault 1. And Data Vault 2 came along and he introduced building a scalable data warehouse with Data Vault 2. This is when it really became performant. We were able to use Data Vault to stream data and give us even more of a bump up and be more business centric. So that was in 2016. And then another influencer of mine is John Giles, and he introduced the Elephant in the Fridge book. All of these books were books that are my Bible books for data, processing data. And John introduced building business-centered models. All right, so what kind of data warehouse do you have? This is at a high level looking at the architectures that, that these gentlemen introduced to us. So Bill Inman introduced the bus architecture, and you can see the sources, on the right, on the left, and then coming into a centralized enterprise data warehouse. And this was in third normal form. And then pushing out to your individual data marts. This is integrated, okay? And then Kimball, his approach was bringing from the sources directly into those data marts. And the big thing that he brought to us that we all love, and it works awesome for self-service BI, is the star schema. And then a modern data warehouse came along. Those were traditional types of architectures, and I've implemented all of these. So I try to bring the best of all worlds together with solutions. So here we have a modern data warehouse where we're using Data Vault, and Data Vault is that central area and pushing out our data, and we've got the hybrid sources coming in and moving into a virtual, all the data is virtual, okay? If it's your star schema, if it's denormalized data, moving into your data for data science or AI, or canonical views, moving into your mobile apps or websites, you've got that central area of the truth. And again, we're in architecture, if you haven't noticed, down at the bottom. Okay, so let's do kind of a deeper dive into the architecture for Data Vault, implementing Data Vault. And by the way, this is a hybrid. Again, I love hybrids. I like to bring the best of all worlds together to bring the best solution. So I look at Data Vault in the center. This is similar to what Inman brought to us, that bus architecture, centralizing your data warehouse in the middle, although it's not in the third normal form, it's Data Vault, okay? So then we've got the info march to the right, which this is Kimball's approach with the star schema. And so let's go a little bit deeper dive into Data Vault, though. This is hybrid, but so Data Vault is bringing in those hybrid solutions. You're coming into a staging area and a landing zone, and you're applying hard rules. The hard rules are things like making sure that your dates are dates and that your numbers are numbers, things like that. If it's coming from a database, it's not really that necessary because you're going to have that kind of quality check on it already, or those constraints. But if it's coming from a spreadsheet or some kind of source that is not, you would want to do your hard rules. Then we move into our raw vault where we have our hubs, links, and satellites. And this is what I consider to be a it's a data lake. It's your raw data lake. You don't touch the data. It's a mirror image of those sources, okay? Then we apply our soft business rules and any transformations that are going to happen. And then they're moving into our business vault. And the business vault, we do have our hubs, links, and satellites. And I'm going to get down further into that. I know the people that have been doing Data Vault forever know exactly what I'm talking about, but anybody that's new would not know. But we've got some slides later on that kind of explain those. But you have your pits and bridges and your hubs, links, and satellites that have been transformed or had business rules applied in that area. And then that is what is going to be feeding into all of our areas. Like you might want to have a service layer that feeds, this is a centralized enterprise area of the truth, okay? And everything is sourced from there. So everything is going to match. So you've got it pushing it out to your service layers for your websites, your mobile apps. You're pushing that data into your information marts, your star schemas. You also may be pushing that data. Maybe it's a canonical view, and it might be going into streaming data, and we can also accept streaming data, which is really cool with Data Vault. And then we've got also to data science and AI, you might want flat data, not that star schema. So, but the point is that you have this centralized area that is used to consume your data. Everything's virtual. Okay. So then I like this slide. These are actually data warehouses that we've implemented. And this was, I was using ERStudio, and this is looking at it at a high level. Okay. And when you look at it, you see that we've got a pattern going on here. This is that pattern that we were talking about with Data Vault, and hubs are on the top, links are in the middle, satellites are on the bottom here. And it's just, this is what anything that's pattern-based can be automated. And this is why we have so many Data Vault acceleration tools. The bottom one is it's a traditional data warehouse, Inman style, and this is also a data warehouse that I've implemented at a company. And you can see that the third normal form, all of the constraints that are there. If you had to change something, you had a request to modify something that was like in the middle, it's a little bit scary. I mean, you see all of this relationships around there. What are your impacts? What are those impacts going to be? Now, that same object up in a data vault, maybe it's right here. It's kind of compartmentalized. These are all the things in your business. This is compartmentalized, and I have to change that. I'm not so scared to do that. All right, so how can we ensure that we're business-centric? Well, we need to follow Data Vault's agile, business-centric best practices. Now we're jumping into the methodology component, methodology slice. Okay, so I'm going to go over the steps to implement that top-down, bottom-up approach. I'll go over what does it look like to onboard a new subject area. The business modeling that needs to occur, working with your business, you need to understand their ontology and the taxonomies. We'll go over, I use something that I've termed a fact qualifier matrix, and that's how we collect our data requirements and make sure that we're meeting those business needs, okay? And then we'll go over the design of the target data models so that we're making sure that we're keeping the end in mind. Stephen Covey's, I think that's habit number 2, which I love it. Keep the end in mind. Always know what you're building. All right. So now this is the business-centric approach that we follow. And again, like Cindy said, it's about people, process, and technology. People are always at the top. So we need to understand the organization and who are the champions and who are the SMEs. Sometimes you don't know who the SMEs are. Okay, well, a good indicator of a SME is somebody that is complaining a lot. If they're complaining, they don't have the data that they need, this isn't working, there's data quality issues, that's the person you want to talk to. Those are the people that care, okay? And they're the ones that are going to help make this a success. So make sure that you get them on board. The second area here is understanding the enterprise ontology. So we have to understand the business. We need a domain map of the business. What are those subject areas and domains? And that's the top down. That's working with the business. Then we've got the bottom up, which is the enterprise architecture. We need to understand those two things. That was kind of like what I went over earlier, the architecture. And then the next area is understanding that the taxonomies and what are those parties what are the things in the business? What are the parties? What's that interaction role look like? And then that's a top down. The bottom up is let's look at our source data models. Let's see what data we have. Let's profile that source, knowing we're trying to find out what are the things in the business and how are they identified? What are the business keys? Okay, well, the business might tell you what it is, but then you go and you check and you profile the data and it's like, oh, well, that's not always populated. We're going to need to really understand what that unique identifier is. So those are the kind of things that we're doing. The next slice is we need to be what I call a knowledge sponge. We need to gain that business knowledge. We need to look at the existing reports that they might have. There's all kinds of requirements in them. What are their KPIs? If they have any business glossaries, we love looking at those. And that's again, we're working from the top down. We're working with the business to understand those things. And then, and I'll go over these in detail, the fact qualifier matrix, to help us identify our business requirements and mapping them into our STAR schemas. The next slice is designing the raw vault, the business vault, the star schemas. We need to design those things, okay? Architecting that solution. And then the next slice is really firming up that architecture, okay? This is really that bottom up technology. We have to know all the details. And then guess what? Now it's time to push that easy button, okay? So this slide is onboarding a new subject area. And actually the first three are in what I consider in an agile world, what would be in sprint 0, okay? And then the last two are really what are your development sprints, where the developers are picking up those stories and implementing them in an agile way. So a business collaboration is the first column. Okay, the first initiation, these are just standard project initiation kind of things. And you're going to want to get the scope. You're going to want to know who's involved, what are their roles, these kind of things. What are the goals? What are the outcomes? And have an action plan. So that's just standard, good project management. Then the next area is business data requirements. So we need to collect the reporting requirements. We need to interview the business and understand, and I'm in that first column. I've got it on 2 different screens. That's we're looking, meeting with the business, again, finding out, identifying data security rules. We're building this fact qualifier, and this is a little snap of it. We'll get into details of it on another slide. We're collecting the metadata. What are the definitions of these objects and these attributes? Now, doing these kind of things up front, this is governance. So we're governing at the same time, we're building the foundation for a good governance as we're going. Okay, so then let's go to the next swim lane. We're collecting those requirements. We need to understand the business, the ontology, and the taxonomies. And this is a little snap of it. We're going to show examples from different companies that we've done this at. So it'll be interesting. I hope it'll be interesting for you to see that it doesn't matter what industry we're in, we're still going to be doing the same thing. Okay. So then we've got, now this is swim lane should be going along at the same time. The data modeling efforts that we're doing, we're reverse engineering that database source. And these don't have to be the same people doing all of these things. So they can be being done at the same time. Somebody's reverse engineering that database source. Somebody's collecting those business requirements. We're understanding what the things in the business are. Where do we find them? In the source. Okay, so we're going to go over how to do that. And then we've got the things in the business. We know the source. Let's design that raw vault model. Then we've got that raw vault model. As soon as we've got the raw vault model, we can be throwing that over the wall. And it can be in your sprints, right? And your sprints are going to be by subject area and then and building raw vault, business vault, InfoMart, that kind of objects. So let's go ahead and throw that over, that development of it, getting the job scheduled, using that acceleration tool to do these things. And also the next swim lane is a data validation, and then your reporting needs. So all of these things can be in slices to be more agile. And then the next area is designing that business vault. And that is going to be based, again, we've got collected our data requirements, what's necessary. I actually like to design the InfoMart first, okay, before doing the business vault. Because when you're designing the InfoMart, that is your end in mind, okay? This is key. This is what tells you if you're successful or not, because this is where the business is going to be accessing that data. If that's not good, it doesn't matter how good your raw vault is. Doesn't matter how good your data vault is. That end result to the business, if it can answer their business questions and they're using it, then you know you've been successful. Okay, so we designed that. We designed our business vault, which is the glue between the raw vault and the info mart. Okay, and then we have to build our source to target maps. And once those are done, we push the business vault objects that need to be designed over to our developers. That can be designed, and the info mart, those are going to be views, and they get thrown over and developed. Okay, so that's the methodology that we're following. This is an example of an ontology, just understanding this was for a law enforcement company or organization that we worked with. And so what we did was we identified the things in the business at a high level, and then what are those domains and what are those relationships between them? Then they were able to prioritize those things in the business. And I think that the person that works, a couple of people that work at this company know who they are. And when we did this, then we're dropping down into the taxonomies, and we're following John Giles' methodology here. And you can see, well, I've got an example here. This wasn't one that I implemented. This was one because I was buying a car with my daughter who happened to total the car, and now we're going to have to go through this again. But so she was buying a car, and I thought, well, this is a good example of to walk through with everybody because everybody buys a car, right? So when you look at this, so we're following the party role model. We're identifying the players. Who are the role? What are their roles? What are the transactions occurring? We're collecting data requirements again, and all of these things. So let's go over this example because I kind of have a theme going throughout the presentation. So the things in the business, the customer, the vehicle, the agent selling the car, and the sales contract. So the sales contract is bringing these things in the business or people in the business together, okay? So, okay, so let me move on, but I'm trying to get the point across. We have to understand what are the things in the business and what's happening in the business. How are they interrelating and their relationships together? So this is an example from a home builder. Okay, this is another client. I don't know if they're on the call or not, but this was done in Ellie. And you can see, again, the things in the business, the relationships, how are they related? And we utilize this. This is a very important part to make sure that you're going to be business centric, to make sure these are the things in the business. These become our hubs. The relationships in the business, those become our links. And of course, we need all the content, and those end up in our satellites. But this is key to following and applying Data Vault. Again, we're still in the methodology here, okay? The methodology piece. So this is what I call a fact qualifier matrix. And this is a simplistic form based off of that concept of buying a car, okay? So you have your data requirements, and this, I'm just doing this in a spreadsheet, okay? So, but the data requirements, they can be, instead, I'm putting a unique identifier on each data requirement, but it could be like if you're using DevOps or ClearQuest or anything like that, it could be a link to that story or that requirement, right? So anyway, so we're uniquely identifying our data requirements. You might want to put a category, or you might want to put a subject area, domain, however you want to split up your requirements. You can have all kinds of columns in here, okay? Like what department, who was it that brought this up? What reports use that date, or answer this question, okay? So if we go along with this and we look at this, this is agent productivity. What were the total monthly sales by agent? Okay, so I'm going to collect all these data requirements, speaking with the business, and then later I go off into my merry world and we build the fact qualifier. Okay, we don't do this fact qualifier during a business meeting. Okay, we're just taking, what are your requirements? So then we map it, and this is like a bus matrix, a Kimball bus matrix, right? But on steroids is what I call it, because what we're doing is we're tying those data requirements into our map that's going to be our info mart. Across the top, horizontally, you'll see a calendar, which becomes our date dims, dimensions. These are how we're going to slice the data. And I usually will put a column on here. How do you want to slice it? How do you want to look at that data? Although it is in the question, right? It's saying by agent. So we've got the yellow is representing our customer information. Again, this is what we've learned from our business, right? On the ontology and the taxonomies. So it's slicing by customer. The orange is a vehicle. The blue is the agent. And then I added another one, which we'll get to in the next question, that wasn't brought up. Okay. So then we're looking at what are the total monthly sales by agent. So that first question is in this cross section. So we're saying, okay, sales. So here's a vehicle sales price. Okay. I actually needed one more in here. Sorry. We need it under the contract date, because in order to know the month, it would have needed to been here too, to slice it, the contract date and the sales price. Okay. So those two, that's all we need. We need the sales price and we need the contract date. Then the next one, customer by area. How many customers live within a 10-mile radius of each dealership? Well, when they brought that up, I was like, oh, well, we don't have dealership, but let me go ahead and add it. So I added those in red because we don't have it, but maybe we can get it, or maybe it's out of scope. But these are the things that we're mapping. So we have customer address. We didn't have dealership address. So we really can't do that analysis unless we bring it in. Here's another one, year over year sales by month. So what was the total sales by month comparing current year to the previous year, year over year? So that's number 3. So number 3 is the sales, and let's see, the sales, and again, I'm so sorry, it should have been in the contract date so that we could slice it by month. And then the 4th one is car model sales. Which model car has the most sales last month? And so for that one, here's your model. And that's going to be in a dimension, right? We know these are going to end up being our dimensions. So that's our model. And then we've got the sales price. And again, I was a little bad here. I should have had all of these in the contract date so that we could slice by calendar. Okay, so that's kind of how we're organizing our requirements and then mapping them so that we can then build our information mart. So the next thing that we're going to do, this is kind of a bottom up piece. And what we're going to do is we're going to reverse engineer that data source. So we did that, and we can see, oh, here's our customer that we've been talking about, right? Here's our customer, here's our vehicle, here's our sales agent, and here's that contract that we needed. So I'm going to go over, because I'm going to jump down into the next slide is going to go over the raw vault modeling that happens before we push that easy button. And these are the things that are in the business. I know Cindy talked a little bit about it, but we've got hubs, which are the business keys, and the hubs are the things in the business. Okay. The link Again, we got that from understanding the taxonomies. The link is the relationship and the relationships in the business. And then the satellite, again, is that raw data content. And then there's two other objects, but I'm really only going to focus on these two in essence in time for time purposes. But you also have pits and bridges, which are in our business vault. And these are primarily they're helpers for performance. And so that we can virtualize our consumption layer. Again, we're in the modeling section of our data vault, applying data vault, right? Okay, so on the left, you'll see this is that source model. And then on the right is the raw vault model that we've designed. And you can see, okay, also we are keeping in mind, I didn't have enough landscape, but I'm looking at that ontology, that taxonomies and the business model that we've done. We're looking at that as an architect while we're looking at the sourcing. We're marrying those things together into our raw vault design. So we have our customer, and these are the things in the business, right? We've got our customer, our vehicle, our contract, and our agent. And you can see that our customer is it's uniquely identified by our customer ID. Then we have in this model, we have a VIN number for our vehicle. We have a contract number. We also for our contract, and then we have an agent ID for our agent. So those are identifying the things in the business. For each of these, again, our raw vault again is like it's an organized data lake, okay? Is how I'm looking at it. It's that raw data, and it's a mirror image of our source in our satellites. So you have our customer that moves into our customer satellite, and then we have a vehicle into the vehicle satellite. And you'll notice that it's all the data. We do data triage. We bring in all the data for those objects. Then we have the sales agent over here. Now, the contract. This one's an interesting object because the contract is really that relationship between the customer, the vehicle, and the agent. And so you can see those relationships on up here. And then this is our link that brought it together. Okay, now we swung all this detail off of that link. So these are what's called hubsats, and this one is called a link sat. But you can see that it's all the data. We didn't leave anybody behind. Okay, we brought all the data. So once you get that raw vault design, this again is when we throw that over to our developers who are going to use our data vault acceleration tool to get this implemented. And now it starts that agile, pick up a story. Okay, I'm ready to build it. I'm ready to build it all the way through. Okay, so then we've got our raw vault, and I'm skipping the business vault right now because of time. Okay, but we do design that also. But we're gonna jump to the end because the business vault, again, is that glue between your end result, which is your information mart, and your raw vault models, right, or areas. So when you look at this, you can see you've got your dimensions. And again, we defined those dimensions in our fact qualifier matrix. So we knew exactly what dimensions we needed. We knew how the business wanted to slice that data. We knew what metrics they were looking for. So it helped us to be able to design. So we have our agent dimension, we have our vehicle dimension, and you can see that they're being brought over from those satellites in the raw vault, and our customer dimension from that satellite. And then we have our date dimension that we build because we want to be able to slice and dice. We want to do year-over-year analysis. We want to do a quarter-over-quarter, month-over-month. So we are defining those dates in that aspect, and slicing and dicing it. So now we have our contract in the middle. Well, guess what? This contract, this fact is based on that link that had those relationships. And again, you see those relationships to our dimensions. Okay. And then what we did is we brought those facts because they were dates and they were metrics, right? And so we brought those into this fact and we're able to slice and dice. Then
Mary,
once,
we have a question.
yes,
Question from Kent. Why did you denormalize the business keys into all the satellites?
why did I what?
Denormalize the business keys into all of the satellites. You have the business keys represented in the satellite. So the question is, was there a good reason for that? Or is this a logical model?
Well, it's a logical model, but I do like putting the business keys in the satellites, and I actually like putting them in the links. The reason why I like to do that is that we can double check. And I know Cindy's going to say, well, you should be doing that in another stage. You can double check if the keys are accurate from your links. I mean, not from your links, but from the hash keys. So this hash key is, I know that it's the customer ID hashed. I have that in my satellite and we can run automated tests against it to validate it and make sure that it's right. I also like, it just makes it easy if we're looking at data in the satellites to have those in. I don't have to go join everything. I just find it easier. I don't know if that answers the question or not. It doesn't have to be there. And I know that in the original, I mean, with Data Vault, it's really only supposed to be in the hubs. It's just a preference that I like to do.
All right, one other question. Wouldn't your loading pattern and pipeline have that tested in Bucky?
Yes. Yes, the loading pipe would. But it's, I don't know, it's something that I like to do. Looking at like when you're just querying and you're investigating data, it just makes it really easy to have it there. And the processes going forward. Yeah. So is the question on the InfoMart or is it on the satellites?
The original question was related to the satellites.
To the satellites. But if you notice, I did it over here too. I'm a little consistent on what I do. But in the facts, I also bring that business key in along with the key to join, because that way it makes it easy for the business. I mean, you have certain things that you might be doing analysis on. I use it a lot. And yeah, so I don't know if that answers it or not, but it's a preference. You don't have to do it.
Just relaying the questions.
The what?
I am just relaying the questions.
I know. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on. You don't have to do that. That's for sure. It's just a preference that I have. Okay. So what does an applied data vault look like? It needs to meet the business needs and bring business value. It needs to follow the capability maturity model integration, which is CMMI. That's part of Data Vault, okay, in the methodology. We need to deliver in an agile and a productive way. It needs to enable ease of manageability of that data warehouse. And it needs to drive down the cost to maintain it. So did the STAR schema meet the data requirements? So I use this fact qualifier to validate, are we able to answer those questions? And we were able to answer some of them. Again, we have the ones in red that were the gaps, but the agent productivity were the total monthly sales by agent. We have the sales in our fact that we can slice by agent and by calendar based on the contract date. So that question can be answered. The customers by area, we weren't able to answer that, and we had it as a gap because we didn't bring in dealership. But we do have the customer address, and now that would be another, let's enhance what we built and let's bring in the dealership. Then the next question is year-over-year sales by month. Was the total sales by month? What was the total sales by month comparing to the year previous? So we do have the sales price, and we do have that contract date, and we can do that year-over-year analysis. And then the car model sales, which had the most sales by most sales last month. Again, that's the same. We've got the model. So we have the model over here for the vehicle, and we're able to slice that by the sales price and then by the contract date by month. We have the month in the DEM. So we need to make sure that, and this is a full cycle, making sure that the requirements that we intended to solve, we did solve them. And then we can also use this to set up our releases and group the requirements, and then it's good for testing because then we know what things need to be tested going forward. So we need to make sure that if we follow Data Vault, applied Data Vault, okay, we follow the Data Vault methodology, that can bring us into CMMI level 5. Your initial, you will probably be at level 3 for CMI maturity, and because you can look at these that, initial, you're not going to be highly reactive. You're going to be managed. We've got a repeatable process that we're following, that we're able to measure our results. And level 3 is getting into the organizational standards. We're following best practices and standards. We've got the metadata, the object and process metadata. That's coming using these acceleration tools. You're going to have you're going to get lineage, we have to do the profiling along with it. And so you're jumping into like level 3 just by going Data Vault, and then you want to be quantitatively, you want to start measuring your quality and doing your master data management. You can build on top of these things. Not everything has to happen at once, but it's good to do all of these things and to get us to that goal of level 5, where you're optimized and we're in that continuous process improvements. So you want to be agile. Now, this slide came from one of my clients. Well, actually, one of the companies that I worked for was an HR software company. And this slide, what I'm showing here, it's a cumulative flow. And what happened was, okay, so we chose Kanban to implement our Agile data vault. And so down at the bottom here, you see it's flat. And this is when we introduced Kanban, okay? And we were all trained, the whole team. The blue is showing case stories that we completed, okay? And you can see that we were not very productive until we started following this agile method along with it. So all of these things come together to be successful. And you can see how it jumped, and the cases, a number of stories that were being able to be closed, it just skyrocketed. We became a machine, okay? And you could just see it all the way up to the top to where we ended up getting an award for as the closing so many stories in that period. And this was a team. This is just a fun slide because there were 13 of us. And although we were doing this digitally, I mean, you know, we had our Kanban board digitally. We really liked, this was before COVID, and we really liked our COVID board I know this is like stickies and, you know, old style, but there was this satisfaction level of pulling a story and getting it all the way through in your agile process. And so I just wanted to share this, but we were able to like visualize that work. You limit the work in process, and you're managing that workflow in a fun way. And it just becomes fun. And then the governance is part of this whole process that we're implementing. We've got the data modeling. It's this block of governance by design. This is a resultant. This is my friend Paola, who is in charge of our governance area. And this building block down here is what we have done by implementing this business-centric data vault methodology. All right, so that's the end of the slide. And if there's any more questions, we can answer that. And I just want to give a special thanks to my data influencers along the years, which is Bill Inman, Dan Linstead, John Giles, also Kimball, but I don't have a picture with him. So anyway, but these are my influencers, and I just want to say, have a great business-centric, data-driven day.
Thanks, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring this up. So we do have Dan Linstead with us. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. And he's going to share some words of wisdom with us. So,
well, we'll see if they're wisdom at the end of this, right? You have to have knowledge to have wisdom first. So we'll see how all this goes. Hi, nice to see everybody out there. Thanks for joining the DVNAUG group. I'll try to keep this to how much time do I have? 10 minutes or 5 minutes?
you have 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Here we go. All right. So a couple of things. Cindy and I just got done with a roadshow in Europe where we launched Data Vault 2.1 certification course. And so how does that tie to what we're doing in the Data Vault landscape today and how we're moving things forward? And no, I'm not on the beach. This is just a background. So actually standing in front of a green screen for everybody. But anyhow, there's a couple of themes that going forward that I think are important. In terms of a landscape, in terms of an architecture, we have to pay attention to data hubs. We have to pay attention to data lakes, even though they're defined incorrectly, in my opinion. We have to pay attention to landing zones. We have to pay attention to data fabric, data mesh, including teaming and the way of working. We have to pay attention to data lake houses. And what does all this mean? So from that perspective, when we talk about the changing aspects of data warehousing, we're looking at systems architecture, we're looking at enterprise architecture, we're looking at the increase of enterprise governance or the need for it, and we're looking at data sets that are going to be larger than ever before. So when we talk about including things in the data lake, we cannot ignore audio, video, image, and document processing. And of course, Bill Inman has been talking about document processing for a long time, and that's the piece that he's focused on there. But we've got to include all these things. So we have some statements for 2.1, and some of these things we've been saying for years, but people just, for whatever reason, have ignored them or let them go by or didn't understand them. Not sure how that worked, but here are some of the statements that we are making in the community today. The first one you've heard in 2.0 classes. Data will become too large to move and or restructure once it lands either in the landing zone or in what we call the persistent or non-persistent staging area. And by the way, the definition of staging area has changed to include parts, bits and pieces of the data lake. The other one that we talk about in the Data Vault landscape in 2.1 now, and we have also said this since 2001, in fact, that the logical data model, the conceptual and the logical data models are far more important than the physical data models. Now, please don't take that out of context and don't go run off and say, well, Dan said not to build a physical data model. I did not say that. I also did not say that physical data models are not important. So don't think that way either. What I mean by logical is more important than physical is that when we're drawing out or taking our information from a business perspective, ontologies, taxonomies, and you heard some of that here, and you can read about some of that in John Giles' work. The Elephant in the Fridge is an awesome book. And of course, some of the conferences that he's spoke at our conferences, he's talked about taxonomies and ontologies, but corporate enterprise governance and corporate metadata catalogs and all of that, all the way down through conceptual, all the way down through logical. What we're starting to see is this need for virtualization. And I'm not just talking about virtualization tools, although that's a part of it. There is a major push towards data fabric, and you'll see this from the vendor space, but it's a great idea. However, it is a massive undertaking inside the realm of data management. Now, in terms of logical and physical, what does that have to do with anything? Well, as you may not know or may know, the more logical your data models are and the less physical they are, the faster and more agile you are to business demands and business requirements. However, in order to get the optimal physical model from the logical setup, you need to understand the platform you're implementing on. In a lot of cases in data warehouses, multiple platforms, and your enterprise data warehouse is a logical definition that spans multiple platforms. So these are things to think about in terms of a physical model. Your physical model, I'll just finish it up with this. There will be a lot of questions, I'm sure, about all of these things. But in terms of the physical model, don't forget that the physical model can and will change to meet the needs of the platform. And from that perspective, we built Data Vaults on Cassandra, and we had to denormalize what the Data Vault model looks like. And so you'll need to study Coddendate's normalization and denormalization requirements because it's proper denormalization in order to get it to work in column families in Cassandra, along with Data Vaults on MongoDB. And if you're going to build a Data Vault on a graph database, graphs are strong and getting stronger, then you will need to know how to adjust the physical model to make it work on those platforms. We've also built some Data Vaults in recent time on BigQuery. So that's very important to think about how things physically denormalize to make BigQuery work. I'm not saying throwing away hubs, links, and sats. I'm saying you might actually look at denormalization practices and principles at the physical level only. And then, of course, there are virtualization engines. Now, my clock is ticking. There's a whole lot more to this. I'm just going to talk a little bit here about the focus of 2.1. 2.1 is a solution for information management, and as opposed to a system for analytics, right? So we've expanded the definition and the focus more into the data management realm. So from that perspective, I'll just wrap it up here. In terms of being agile and business-centric, we need to really focus on the logical components, mapping to the conceptual, and tying all of those things together, drawing the gap closed between the perception of how business is managed and understood. That would be the enterprise metadata catalog and corporate taxonomies and ontologies, and how we actually build the logical model representation around the business ideas and business keys and business concepts. So to keep those together, to bring that gap closer together, is to be more agile and to be faster with delivering value to business. So I always have one more thing, so here it is. We are now teaching teams in 2.1 how to span this gap and actually deliver in development in day-long sprints. So we're taking the same amount of work that used to take 2 weeks, and we're teaching teams how to execute in a development environment in a day-long sprint. And remember, profiling is not part of that sprint cycle. Profiling is its own sprint, as we've talked about so many times before. That is it from me. I've run out of time. In fact, I've gone over. Thank you for indulging me. Take care, everybody.
So right now, oh gosh, okay, well, I'm up. So again, this is Cindy Meyerson. Really happy to have everyone here today. Data Rebels is an authorized training organization. I'm a certified instructor for Dan. I also happen to be the Chief Operating Officer for Data Vault Alliance. So Dan and I work very closely together. And Data Rebels, we deliver a number of things. First and foremost, we are known for our training. And so I am currently working with Dan on delivering the 2.1, the new 2.1 class. We started that in September. We're super excited about that. Scott Ambler is joining us on a number of these live in-person training sessions. We have 3 more. I'll just say real quick, we have 3 more live sessions. Well, excuse me, 2 more. One is in November in Boston, and Dan will be primarily training that session live. Scott is joining us to deliver an agile teaming workshop, which is our day 4 workshop exercise, which is part of the CDVP 2.1 delivery that Data Rebels has. And Scott is also offering his own 1-day Agile Data Warehousing for Leadership class, which is excellent. We had some folks come in from Estonia into Helsinki to take his class, and they just thoroughly enjoyed it. So he's done that also in Raleigh. So in Boston, his class will be on Friday. Our CDVP 2.1 class will be Monday through Thursday, with Scott picking up the workshop on Thursday. So it's just a great opportunity. We're doing it again down in Florida in December, the same agenda and curriculum. And then we also in October, we have the 2.1 that is going to be virtual. Scott will not be joining us. Scott does not teach his class virtually. It's always in person because he's coaching and things like that. And so he prefers not to do any virtual training right now. So anyway, that's what's coming up. We also have Kickstarts. I can talk about that briefly. Basically, it's, as Dan mentioned, we can take a team, in about 10 days, we can take a team through training and also come up with a very well scoped deliverable for you. So we're offering workshops, 4-hour workshops. So if you're interested in any of that, please reach out. You can reach me at Cindy@datarebels.com. You can see my website and a number of other things we have offering. And so thank you so much for listening, and I'm turning it over. We have Paul here.
Hi, I'm Tim Ortiz. Hey, everybody. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, you sound great, Tim.
Wonderful. Okay, so ERStudio. ERStudio is, I'm Tim Ortiz, Product Marketing Manager, and ERStudio is an enterprise data modeling solution that supports comprehensive data management and governance. Model the entire enterprise. ERStudio gives you a holistic view of your organization's data architecture. It lets you model complex relationships and data flows across departments and systems. It connects all data sources, whether on-prem, cloud, or hybrid. ERStudio connects to all your data sources from traditional databases to big data platforms, ensuring seamless integration and consistent governance. We establish and integrate governance, right? ERStudio integrates with leading governance platforms like Calibra and Microsoft Purview, and numerous technologies, including Databricks and Snowflake. Align business and IT technical stakeholders. Improving and nurturing data culture is a big challenge for organizations of every size. ERStudio bridges the gap between business and technical teams by providing business-friendly glossaries and technically accurate models, promoting collaboration and ensuring everyone is aligned on data definitions and usage. And of course, we support modern frameworks and innovations. This is a big part of what we're doing now. ERStudio supports emerging frameworks like data mesh and data fabric, and is built to handle the demands of AI, machine learning, and big data analytics, making it a future-proof solution for your data governance needs. I think for those of you who don't know us, you'll love us as a tool because we really add the structure and trust in data. And we give it's a comprehensive approach that ensures your organization can manage, govern, and scale data operations. I really thank you for your time. And of course, you have a break coming up. Afterward, you have Jamie Knowles, my counterpart on the product side for ERStudio. And thank you for your time.
I think, Cindy, you're on mute.
I have a question for you. What was the highlight of the launch in September for you?
The highlight of the 2.1 launch was probably the feedback that we got from the students, where they see the incredible value. And these aren't my words. We have some recordings to show you what these folks have been saying, but the value of the increased knowledge around how data lakes and landing zones and data hubs and data fabrics and data mesh and all of that fit together with the data vault principles and design and so on. So hearing from the students that they enjoy that, and then of course being able to finally teach the materials around JSON hubs and JSON satellites and JSON links. That was a big one that we've been working on for quite some time. As you know, we worked with FTD Florists and they presented at the conference just recently in May. And they were very, very happy with what we had done for them. And of course, all the JSON stuff was in beta, but we proved it out under large circumstances at a large client. So was happy to finally teach those concepts and get them going.
So, Jamie, I've known Jamie for a long time, and he is a data modeling guru, and he is he's in charge of product strategy for ERStudio. He's been in modeling in this industry for over 25 years, and he manages the software products and the new things that are going into the tool, which I'm really excited he's going to be demonstrating for us. He has experience over a diverse range of business areas: oil and gas, finance, insurance, and government. And I'm just really excited that he's going to be showing us new advancements in ERStudio for Data Vault. So, and I love the fact that, about that this is going to lead us, he's going to show us how it integrates into our governance tools like Calibra and Purview. Pretty awesome.
Great. Well, Jamie,
Fantastic.
you should have the floor here.
Great. Right. Let me see if I can share my screen. Hopefully you can all see the PowerPoint. Let me know if you can
It's
see
just
it.
a little bit of lag probably in the network, but it does say you've started to share. There you go. Okay.
Beautiful. All right. Okay, good. Yep. So Barry's right. I look at a product strategy for ERStudio. So today I'm going to talk about governing your data vault. There's a few things I want to talk through. So the first item I wanted to talk about maturity of architecture, and there's still some surprises in the industry. So, organizations sort of conduct their analytics program. I want to talk about data mesh. So a lot of the data governance tools are now sort of adopting the sort of consumption model approach to governance. Microsoft especially, we've had an integration with Calibra for a good long time, seeing data architecture and data governance sort of really working together as an ecosystem. The Purview integration is more recent, and as Dan was saying, data fabric and data mesh are the data fabric idea is a sort of a data supply chain. So I've got all my tools all working together in sort of harmony, and all the people using those tools working in harmony to give me a sort of self-service data journey with people at the start making requests for data, and then the machinery sort of delivers that data in a well-governed, efficient network. And data mesh really sort of introduces what do you put in that data storefront at the front of the data products. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and Microsoft's Purview story. And then I want to talk about how our sort of enterprise understanding of the data is really going to drive all this stuff and drive success. And then I want to talk through how we sort of go through that process of finding and building data products in ERStudio and Purview. And then, as Mary said, I'm going to do just a couple of minutes sort of talking through tools we've got and we're about to release for Data Vault to help out with the Data Vault. Okay, so that's my agenda. Let's get going. So the maturity model. Hopefully you can all see a sort of little blue arrow. We've got so many customers that we're seeing, yep, we've just spent $1 gazillion on some new technology. We're going to build an analytics program. We're going to have at it, go straight to code, happy days. Or we might see, hey, yeah, physical data models, that's great. We're just going to create some physical data models. We're going to buy a tool and use it like an IDE to create stuff in the warehouse, and great fun. Yeah, get there really quickly. And then as we move right, we start introducing more modeling, more architecture, more thinking, conceptual models of the requirements. We're going to standardize handling of data with enterprise models. We're then going to start looking at sort of formalizing the consumption model with data products. We then might add in sort of governance all the way through and sort of start shifting left. So there's a maturity model here. And we see customers saying, look, yeah, we're not going to bother with that architecture. It's going to cost us too much. It's going to slow us down. It's going to take us time to get to value. Yep, that's often the case. I've got a little flag on my screen saying my internet connection is unstable. Hopefully everyone can still hear me and see me. Just somebody give me a check.
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see the slide. You've got the cost and time to value graphs up.
Beautiful. Good. We're all catching up. That's good. So, but there are benefits. As we add in more architecture, more thinking, more planning, we're going to get more benefits. Managing change is going to be much easier. Now, Dan and Mary both talked about the benefits of Data Vault. Data Vault is big on architecture and planning. So that changeability, that manageability is much easier. We're going to get better trust in our data. We're going to get more value over time. Our risk is going to decrease. So I really wanted to sort of emphasize the need for value, and because we're just seeing so many customers saying, let's just sort of keep left on this slide, straight to code. All right, enough said on that. Data mesh. This is really becoming popular. The term data mesh, sometimes not used. Sometimes companies are just talking about a product-based approach to data. So the principles here are we're going to split the organization into domains. The domains are the experts in areas of data. Back in the old days of data architecture, we might use the term subject area, which nicely aligns with those domains. So the domains like HR, sales, etc., are going to take ownership of their data. So it's a decentralized approach to data. And those domains are going to be responsible for the governance of their data and then the provision of products. So data as a product is central to this. So we're really focusing on the consumption side of the model. What is it the business needs? What is it they want? So if we think about our data supply chain and our data storefront, we've got our sort of perhaps Amazon storefront. Everyone can come along and look at the beautiful products and select the product that's right for them. The tool's going to be intelligent, maybe recommend products to them. The products are well thought through. We're only going to put products in our store that the organization wants, and they're going to be good quality products that are well maintained, well governed. Great. Self-service is really important. So the domains are going to think up of products that the organization wants, and then anybody should be able to come along and browse for those products, and they should be able to request new products. So that's the sort of tenets of data mesh. But there's some challenges that sort of go along with this. So that decentralized approach can be problematic. Now, the sort of approach is, yeah, we break the organization down into domains. For each domain, they'll think about the information that they're concerned with. So they'll develop business glossaries. They'll create sort of taxonomies of terms and ontologies. So this is the information that the domain is responsible for. And they can start to assign the policies and rules around each of the business terms, each of the pieces of information in those business glossaries. So that's sort of step one. Step two, they'll start thinking up of the data products. So this is really at a very logical level. There's sort of, at this point, it's really just, we want a product that's going to cover this sort of area. Here's the use case for it. And then assign some of the business terms to it to give the sort of high level requirements of those data products. And then comes to the process of realizing the data products. And there's no real sort of hard and fast rules with data mesh what the data products could be. I've heard sort of some customers say, yeah, they could be an Excel spreadsheet. I think more likely it's going to be something more well organized. It could be a sort of JSON structure in a streaming service or an API. It could be a star schema in the data warehouse. But we're going to have collections of assets that realize those data products. So this is the sort of model that we're going to get. So as I said, this decentralization offers challenges. So there's going to be a lot of common information both across data products and across domains. So we want to make sure that there is consistency across them. Now, the usual sort of thing we talk about is sort of no to silos. I've got my slides confused. I was going to talk about that in a moment. So the Microsoft Purview story, let's talk about that. Now, data catalogs is really the sort of what Purview is all around. And a data catalog has two parts to it. On the left, we've got the business glossary. So in Purview, we used to be able to create a series of business glossaries, arranging terms into taxonomies and ontologies. And then we'd create data assets. So we'd reverse engineer pretty much any data asset in the organization, operational data. If they've got a lake, it might be files. Any data structures, we might cover the data warehouse itself, all the way to sort of BI reports. It's an overarching data catalog, and we can go through and say, okay, this business term here, here's the policies that applies to it. Where is it in terms of the data assets? Are those data assets upholding those policies? So that was the sort of approach to data governance. Now, Microsoft is changed Purview, and it's really now focusing on this sort of data mesh story, this sort of data product story. It's all around the consumption model now. So they're really focusing on creating these business domains, creating a series of data products, and really just sort of publishing in Purview the consumption items that support those data products, leaving the sort of supply side out. Okay, so this is the slide I was going to talk about. So enterprise models, which we're going to talk about next. So some of the challenges that we want to try and satisfy: silos, this decentralized approach. We need across the data products within a domain and across the data products across domains, we need this standardization. If we've got the notion of customer, this is probably going to be referenced by data products owned by a whole range of different domains. So we want to make sure that we're standardizing the notion of customer. When we're talking about the word customer itself, the different types of customers, getting down to taxonomies again. How do we identify a customer? It needs to be standard across the whole organization. And that standardization and consistency will breed trust in our data. And that will give us interoperability as well. So these data products across domains need to be able to plug together. We want to be able to sort of pull information from a number of sources. It needs to be consistent. And we need a governance framework that covers the whole lot. So here comes enterprise data models. So this is the sort of thing we've been doing ever since sort of Ted Codd and Chris Dates sort of came up with a relational theory, creating data models. So for individual data assets, we can create a logical model in business language, and we can create a physical model that's tied to the technical data assets. But we build enterprise standardized models. So here we can see that we've got a single enterprise conceptual model with 50, 100, 200 different concepts in there. They're really important concepts of the organization. And then for the important stuff, we start to drill down and add more detail. So things like customer, we might understand that we've got a taxonomy, different types of customers. How do we identify a customer? What are the standard attributes of a customer? We've got things like a credit rating score here. What's the calculation for a credit rating score that we're going to standardize across the whole organization? What things does a customer relate to? Okay, this forms our standard model. And we can use this to both design new data assets. So if I want to design a new application database, then I can pull in all of these standard entities. I might want to tweak them and change them, add new stuff in there. But great, that's going to kickstart and standardize the design of our new database. And then we can generate our physical model from it. We can do the same thing if we're generating file structures. So if there's a JSON structure, same thing. We're going to start with a logical model using standardized building block components. And then our tool, ERStudio in this case, is going to generate the physical model for us. Or we might actually document something that's already existing. So here we've bought a COTS package, and they use the term client instead of customer. Great, that's fine. We can tie it all into our enterprise logical model, and then we can see, well, where is all this information? What does it all mean? What rules applies to it? And we can extend this into the governance model. So over on the left, we've got our business glossary, lists of business terms. So there's kind of two worlds, two groups of people working together. The blue and the gray stuff is the data architects with their structured view of our information. And then we've got our data stewards. They've got a very similar model as business terms. They're focusing on the sort of the policies and the rules and the definitions of information. And we want to link it all together. And with a nice model like this, I can go from a business term and say, where is it in my estate? I can come up from the ground up and say, hey, this column in this table in this database, what does it mean and what rules and policies applies to it? So this is the sort of model that we're trying to work with. And for the data warehouse, similar sort of idea. All our source data assets nicely mapped to our enterprise logical model. Great. That helps us understand what source data we've already got. So as Mary was saying, when we're going to start off with our requirements, we might start off designing the star schemas. Great. We can build those star schemas and design them from the enterprise logical model, bringing in standardization again. We can then say, well, where does this information come from? Heck, great. Here's all the source data assets. And then we can start designing the data vault structures themselves. Again, all inspired by the same standard enterprise logical model. And this is going to sort of kickstart all that knowledge. So Mary was talking about being a knowledge sponge. That business knowledge is going to come from our enterprise logical model. The enterprise logical model is really a sort of a view of the business itself, talking about the things in the business, the key transactions that those things perform, and the relationships between them, the activities that those entities perform on those transactions. Good. Okay, so the enterprise model can really support the data mesh journey. So across all those different domains, we want to introduce the notion of standardization. And there's various different options for this. We could just take the enterprise logical model as a whole and say, okay, every data product that we design, just like we were just talking about with any data asset, we'll just pull entities straight from it into the data products. We might want to allow each domain to create their own logical model, their own standardized model that's going to govern each of the domain's data products. We might share entities across those different domains, or we might have a hybrid of the two, where we've got sort of common standardized concepts in the enterprise logical model, and then they're shared across the domain logical models. Now, this is really interesting. So each of the entities in each of these models kind of represent a foundational data product. Each one could exist as a data product in its own right. So really what the domain and the enterprise logical models for is kind of giving you a sort of a building block plan on how you can connect those foundational data products together to form aggregate data products. And using this, we know we're going to get standardization across every data product and across every domain. So we're working with a lot of customers at the moment to try and sort of use one of these different approaches to provide that sort of standardization and consistency model for the data products. Okay, right, I've talked enough. I'm going to show you some of this in the tool now. I might have to stop sharing and reshare. So just bear with me a moment. So has anything changed on your screen? Can you guys see Purview, or are you still seeing the PowerPoint?
I think we're seeing the PowerPoint still, but it says data
Right,
product
okay.
process in ERStudio with Purview and Calibra.
Right, so I'm going to share again then and share this screen. Okay, tell me when you can see an application that's hopefully Microsoft Purview.
There you go.
Beautiful. All right. Okay. So as I said, ERStudio and Purview work together. There's a sort of deep synchronization between the two tools. There's lots of information flowing between them constantly. So we've done a lot of work with the Microsoft product team on this. So in Purview, we've got two halves. We've got the data catalog and the data map. The data map represents our technical data dictionary. The data catalog is really around that sort of consumption model. So if we flick across to here, we're going to go and look at the different domains of the organization. Now, my little example, we're going to focus on human resources. So for this particular domain, they've got their business glossary here, they've got 360 terms, and they've got a bunch of data products. So I'm a business user here. I want to come through and browse for all the data products that's available. So I'm really interested in sales commissions for my salespeople, for employees. Brilliant. So here it is. It's got a description. It's got the use cases for it. There's somewhere in here all the sort of different policies that would apply to this particular data product. Now, in this case, this one's been built out. We can see there's some business terms that's been attached to this particular data product. This has been finally physicalized. In this case, the data product's been realized by a star schema, and we can see three tables that have been assigned to this data product. We've got a fact table and two dimensions. Now, this might get a little bit technical for business users. So this is where the logical model comes in. So within Purview here, I can go and click on my logical model, and I can see that view details. There we go. So for my business person, I really want to know what information is in this this data product. It's got three entities in there. It's got commission payments, orders, and employees. Great. This looks like the sort of thing that I want. I can even hop over to Team Server and see the same thing in Team Server, and I can look at a picture of it. Beautiful. There it is. So that's really what I'm going to get in logical terms. Now, again, Dan was talking about logical models and physical models. This is going to be physicalized as a star schema, but what we want is everybody in the organization to really understand sort of just nice, simple, third normal form logical data models like this. I can see these three entities. I can see the relationships between them. I can understand this. Okay. So that's our data product that's been built in Purview here. So I want to take you through now is the process of creation of that data product. So let's pretend that it hasn't been realized. These blocks don't appear on the in Purview yet. So the process is someone's come along and said, hey, I really want a data product that's going to give me sales commissions. They've given a description, they've given a use case. Somebody's come along and said, yeah, that looks good. Let's start designing it. The requirements that were originally given, these are the business terms that have been provided by the requester. Okay, so I've got a thing called commission payment here, which is a business term. Okay, let's view this business term. So remember what I was saying. So the business terms has a couple of jobs. One is to really sort of define what this piece of information it is. And it also might apply, tell you what the sort of classifications of it as a PII flag. So this piece of information is personal data, and it's got a high sensitivity level associated with it. Great, policies assigned to it. Now I can hop over here to Team Server. So at the moment, we're really sort of on the consumption side of the model. So what I want to do now is start thinking about how do I build this thing? So I'm going to look at the same business term over in ERStudio. And I've got the same definition, those same flags that we were just looking at. Great. So first question is, do we have this existing anywhere in our estate? So this business term, commission payment, has already been mapped to a number of data models that we've already created. Now, we've already built this fella. So I can see that in my data products, I've already created the data product. I'm going to take you through how we build this fella over here. We can see already we've created things in our data warehouse. So in our data vault, in our raw vault, there's a satellite here that contains commission payments. We've also got something in our business vaults that contains the same information. Great. I can also see at source, there's a source data asset called our database that has got a physical table called whatever it is, and there's a nice logical entity that someone's created with business language that maps to that commission payment. So I can see where the data is going to come from. So let's pretend at this point in time, these two blocks at the bottom don't exist. I can see that commission payment also exists in my corporate enterprise logical data model. Great, so let's go and have a little look at that. So if I open up this particular entity here in my enterprise logical model, I can check the definition, etc. I can go and look at a logical model from my enterprise logical model. Beautiful. Okay, so there's commission payment there. And I can see that it's linked to an entity called employee and order. Very good. So if I want to design this data product, then these are my sort of foundational data products that I can build this aggregate data product from. So if I want to design my data products, it's going to help if I sort of pull in these three entities from the enterprise logical model. So I'm going to hop across now to Data Architect. Now, again, screen sharing, can you all see a different application? Hopefully you can see ERStudio Data Architect, or have I got to share again?
Well, I'm looking at something called commission payment. I can't tell. It's an, there you go. That's an ER tools. I see a model.
Yes, you should see. So, yeah, you should see a sort of a toolbar. This is a Windows-based application.
Yeah, I see a large model.
Yes, good. That should be it. Okay, so this is our enterprise logical model. And Mary was showing one of these on her screens earlier on. It was quite a busy old affair. But in ERStudio, I can break my big complex model down into different submodels. So I might have one that represents employees, one represents product, one represents sales. I can create as many submodels as I like. All of these are just sort of views upon the overall enterprise model. So the sort of process that I'm going to go through to design my data products is I can create a brand new model. I can select these three entities, and then I can copy those entities into my new data product design. So this is a logical model that's going to represent our data products. Immediately, I could publish this back to Purview, and that's what we were seeing earlier on. Those three entities were listed out. That's really the sort of the first part of the process. So we've designed a logical model for the data products. We've published that back to Purview. It's got nice standardized components in there. So I know that if I'm talking about employee in this data product, it's going to be use the right language. It's going to have the right attributes. The keys, the business keys for my employee are going to be standardized. Happy days. So the next job is someone might come along then and in Purview and approve that design and say, yep, that looks good, make it so. So the next part of the journey is to sort of start thinking about how we implement this. Now in ERStudio, from this logical model, I can just push a button and straight away I might want to create a JSON schema. I might also then generate a physical model. Maybe I want to represent a star schema. So I can generate a physical model from here and then reassemble those tables into my star schema, creating a fact table and 2 dimensions. So I've now created my star schema. And this is really what sort of Mary was talking about. So starting off with those requirements, we've got a nice sort of smooth process where we've taken the requirements for a data product. We've created a design that includes standardization. We could again push the button from ERStudio and it would generate my DDL code and I can deploy that to my data warehouse. I could reverse it back into Purview. I can connect my nicely documented model in ERStudio to the model in Purview, and then the 2 worlds are all connected. Good. Hopefully everyone followed that journey nicely. Now I was going to show another slide, but I think it's easier if we carry on
Can I ask a question?
through another demo. Yeah, of course.
Okay, so if you're in ERStudio and let's say it's our InfoMart or our data mart model, and we make modifications to it, does it automatically, it's in the repository, so does it automatically show up I know it shows up in Team Server Portal for the enterprise right here. If we have it published, it'll show up here automatically. So everybody can see it, the whole enterprise, right? Does it automatically show up in Purview or Calibra?
It's a controlled process. So you choose when to publish to Purview. So this diagram here might be in a state of flux if this is representing our sort of data products. As soon as we're ready to publish, then we press a button and it sails across to Purview. So it's a controlled process. And there are sort of automation steps in.
With the glossary.
Did I answer your question?
So the glossaries that you put into like Team Server Portal here, they're joined, they're like bound is what I'm going to say, like you do binding, but to the model that we architect, right? So and then they put business definitions on top of it, and it's tied to the model, right?
Yeah, and remember we've got sort of 2 halves of the model. This green stuff, the business terms, is kind of owned by the data stewards and the governance team. So they're creating their taxonomies and ontologies that represents the business information. Hopefully, semantically, it should be similar, if not identical, to the models in the data architecture owned by the data architects. We're just working on some tools at the moment that allow you to synchronize those 2 worlds and compare them. But ERStudio and Purview are constantly synchronized, so business terms should be identical across. Maybe that Purview is for branches in Team Server, changes of view Team Servers, what you can see here on the screen. We can then attach these in our data models. So we just navigated down taxonomy in ERStudio to employee, and then we can see where is employee in terms of all of our different data models.
So that's happening inside of this tool, which is the Team Server Portal. It's happening inside of Team Server Portal where it's binding the model to the business terms for maybe attributes or tables or objects, not, I'm going to say objects. And so that happens here, and then that all gets pushed into Purview or Calibra. Is that the flow
Yeah,
you would do?
exactly. So I could push a logical model across to either Calibra or Purview, and this business term's already available in both Calibra and Purview. With Purview, for physical models, Purview would scan the data asset directly, and then we connect that scanned asset to a file in Teams, and then you can push a button and say overlay all my business metadata, and that business metadata is now descriptions, any sort of governance properties that we've already got against the physical model. It would attach to the logical model that we've already published to Purview or Calibra and connect it to any business terms that we know about. So we're kind of documenting scanned assets in Purview
Okay,
or Calibra.
thank you.
No problem at all. So that was really the sort of a whistle-stop tour through the consumption model. So as a business user browsing through business data products, business domains, data products in Purview, looking for data assets, I can make a request for a data asset. We did a whistle-stop tour of defining the logical model for the data product and then the star schema. The next part of the journey is creating the regions in the data warehouse. So again, I'm going to try and again, I'm going to hop across to Data Architect. Let me know that you can see a different tool. Can you see table dimensions?
Not yet.
If not, I'll share again. Right, let me, I'm having real troubles sharing today, so do apologize. Let's go through and share again. I've only got a few minutes left, so I'm going to try and keep this speedy. So what I wanted to cover now was creation of data vault assets in the tool. So there's kind of two things we can do. We can create the business vault. Now the business vault should be inspired by the enterprise logical data model. So again, in Data Architect here is my enterprise logical model.
Jamie,
Now we want to create
I'm
a
not seeing
logic.
anything.
Okay, let me try and share again. I do apologize. We're not doing very well on our sharing, are we? Technology is a wonderful thing when it works. Okay, sharing again. Here we go. Can we see Data Architects? It says on my screen, you guys can see what I've got.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Great. Okay. So here's our enterprise logical model. We were just looking at one of the different submodels. So what I can start doing, and I'm going to show you some of the little gadgets, and we're about to release gadgets that will actually convert entities in a logical model or a physical model to hubs, links, and satellites. So there's a little bit of automation. Some of our competitors have got some simple templates where I can just say, right, I'm going to draw a brand new fresh entity. I want to create a hub. It'll insert the sort of the hash key and some of the other standard columns. What we want to do is sort of really think about the flow. So using the enterprise logical model to sort of drive the design. And what I want to end up with is sort of hubs that relate back to those entities in my enterprise logical model. So I'm just going to show you this in practice. So here's a little simple model. This is the model that Mary was showing earlier on. So I'm going to create a raw vault from this. So this is a logical model that I've created by reverse engineering a database. This is going to be our data source. So when ERStudio reverse engineers and creates a physical model, it will also create a logical model at the same time. So from this logical model, I'm going to use it to generate my raw vault. Okay, and end up with something that's like this. Let me show you the process. So I've already created some hubs and some satellites from these source tables. So what I'm going to show you is the macro in process. So I want to right click on customer here, and I can fire off my little gadget. I want to create a hub from this. So the tool will show me all the different attributes in the entity and allow me to select the business key. Now, in the next iteration, we'll also be able to use information like we've perhaps got a primary key for this particular, we've got some alternate keys. This is especially important in the enterprise logical model. The enterprise model will say, hey, we've got a thing called a customer. The primary key will always be customer reference number, but you can identify. In fact, I can show you that behind the entity. So here in this one, I've actually done that. So my primary key has just got my customer ID field. I've got other various available keys. I can use first name, last name, and date of birth. I can also use the email address. I can also use the location, which is my address line 1 and zip code. So all of these are valid ways of identifying a customer. So all of this is going to be useful knowledge to help us make a decision on what is going to be the business key in our data vault. So again, I'm going to select to create a hub from this, in this pick D, and hit start and close it, and it is created. It's inserted the standard columns, entity here, it's named it correctly. Happy days. Sped things up nicely. Next thing, I want to create a satellite from this. So run the macro again on the same table and create a satellite. Then I can change which attributes I want to include in my satellite. And to Dan's point, we'll exclude the key, the business key that we used, and we're going to hit start. Okay. And now we've got a satellite. Again, it's linked back to our original table here, and it's attached to our hub nicely. Okay, and then the last thing we can do is I could select maybe all of these hubs here and create a link. Okay, there's the link. Off we go. And there's our macro. It's created the object for us. So now what I'll do is add those new objects to our submodel that represents the raw vault. So it's those new tables. Push those over. I think there was a, we got them all. Oh, there's a hub as well. There he is. Okay, and then I'm going to choose my layout, hierarchical. Boom. There it is. I could sort of tidy this up a little bit more, but there's my first cut logical model of my raw vault, just from a few clicks, creating from my source data.
It doesn't look
So these macros we're going to
hierarchical.
sort of do a little bit more work on, doesn't it? Why is it not hierarchical?
Not sure. So would you do this when you're like working on your design? Because this would literally, I mean, like my example was very simplistic, but it's to help you build it, because you don't want to build a source, right? Raw vault, right? So this just kind of helps you to start, and then you would modify it.
Exactly, yeah. So you might say,
Just
well,
kind of
okay,
helps you. It's not like you
yeah,
just push the button on that.
that's right. We've gone a sort of step further than just creating sort of simple temp verbs and
Jamie, your audio
work to
is
do.
cutting in and out. So we're losing part of what you're saying. I apologize, but I just need to let you know that.
Thanks for that. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but it's been great all day long. Sorry, everybody.
Jamie, try turning off your video and seeing if that improves things.
good idea. Let me try that. I'm going to turn off my video. How's that? Is that any better? So we're talking about what's the tool doing for you in terms of automation. It's not doing all of the work for you. It's kind of a helper just to sort of do a lot of the laborious tasks. One of the other sponsors there is another idea, a product called Warescape that is a lot more complete in its automation. So really we're just sort of helping out with some of these tools, but the real sort of secret sauce is that we're using these enterprise logical models that's going to drive the design of our business vault and the little helpers that's going to help us with the create the raw vaults.
So,
I think I've
Jimmy,
run out of time. Yeah, I wrote it.
yeah, just one question. So, is it something that we have created a raw vault and that is a logical raw vault on top of our logical model at the enterprise level? So, this will help us to, once we will try to materialize the raw vault from the source, that time we can match that either it is logical view with respect to our logical model. Is it right?
Yeah, exactly. So this raw vault here is really inspired by the source data. And once I've got my logical model crafted correctly, as Mary says, I might want to sort of refactor a lot of this. I can then sort of generate the physical model, which will be sort of applied to Snowflake or whatever technology I'm going to use. And on the business vault side of things, I might want to be inspired by the enterprise logical model. So the hubs that I'm going to create are coming straight from that business model, the enterprise logical model, to again create me a nice sort of logical business vault using the same sort of techniques I was just showing.
So what I see this as a beneficial would be because, remember I had that, you understand the business first, and then you take the source. And I tend to do that. Like I'll take the source and then I start modifying it, but you can't just push the button and it be right, because I already see something wrong there. Like that contract, the satellite, it would be a link sat, okay? And it looks like when you push the button, it just automatically did a hub sat. It created the link, but I know that when I was going to design it, I would put it under the link. So I'm looking at this as helpful for the designing part that you're doing. But to be honest with you, I don't generate from here. I know that you could, but we just use it as a guide for the person that's using, say, 3D, Warescape 3D, or for a vault speed, because those tools, we tell it, what to do, basically. I would use this as a guide for that developer to say, hey, this is what it's supposed to generate. But I really like generating from those tools because you're answering all the questions for Data Vault, and it's going to generate the object and the code all at the same time. But I see this useful in the step where I said that we needed a design. We need to design what is a ROS vault going to look like. So this would be helpful there. And then you would fix it because if you go right to the source, you're going to build a source raw vault, and we don't want to do that. But it is helpful in the steps that I know that I do, because I do suck in the source, and I do start switching it over to build the hub and the satellite. How would I design it? And then and go forward. So I do see that this is as helpful in that respect. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Only the contract would I made a link satellite.
Right.
But anyway, we get the point.
You get the point. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea is that sort of all of this is sort of connected into my logical model, connected back up to my enterprise logical model, connected to business terms. I can publish this to either Calibra or Purview if I want to, or I can publish it to my team server application so that people could actually go in and sort of view it. So if I go and look in, hopefully you're seeing Team Server again. I know I'm having a bit of a lag problem. So this employee term is linked to this hub in my business vault. I can double click on this fella, and as a business person, I can go and view the model. Are you seeing Team Server and the business vault view again?
I think so. I don't know Team Server, so I'm not sure what I'm looking at, but I do see like your model with looks like 4 blue boxes and maybe a link in the middle, and I don't know what else.
Beautiful. That'll
Okay.
do. That'll do. Yeah.
It is Teams.
So this is the sort of web front end. This is the sort of business sort of portal for that any business user could come in and sort of browse through this stuff. Team Server is more for the sort of technical community, and as I said, we're publishing the sort of consumption side to Purview, so that the general sort of consumers of all this stuff will go via Purview, and we're focused on the sort of supply side of the fence.
So you're showing that it was done in the data architect tool, but it's published to everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Good. Okay. Hops back to PowerPoint. Can everyone see the PowerPoint again?
Not yet.
All right. Let me stop sharing and sharing again. Wow, I'm having real battles today, aren't I? Okay, so sharing again. Here it comes. It says I'm sharing. So just to summarize then, enterprise data models. So this standardization across the organization. So from my enterprise data model, I'm going to be using it to design my source data assets. I might be using it to design my messaging infrastructure, my streaming model. I can use the same model to design my data products, the realization of those data products across both the presentation layer, the business vault, the raw vaults, whatever structure I'm using. Okay, so that standardization gives us consistency and trust. It's going to reduce time and cost as we're sort of pulling reusable objects from the model and allow sort of interoperability between all the consumers of that data. ERStudio brings to the party those graphical models. So we're drawing pictures of our data nicely, so we can create logical models that are fit for business people to consume. The tool's going to do the hard work to sort of then generate physical models and then generate the code. It will help us with the sort of change process. As we make a change to a model, it'll then deploy changes to our data assets through alter scripts, etc. And it works with data governance tools like Purview and Calibra to be able to support a data product driven data supply chain that's sort of self-service data approach that we're talking about. Cool. I think I've run out of time, but if there's any quick questions.
I just wanted to say, like, I see this like fitting into, like that process that I had gone over. So I would use that. I like that benefit about the, automatically creating the hubs, links, and satellites, and then letting me fix it because it didn't, it's doing exactly what the database looks like, and so you get the design. But then, and I didn't actually say this when I went over my steps, is that after it's generated using the acceleration tool and you generate the objects and you generating the code, what I do is I reverse engineer into ERStudio. I reverse engineer what was actually generated, and it's in a different model, okay? Because that's what is really there physically, and I'll compare the two, to make sure that what was built from the tool is actually what we expected it to be. And then the one that I use for the business glossaries and binding the business metadata is actually the one that was generated, the one that I reverse engineered. That's the one that I go with. I don't know if you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
Okay.
It makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I love the fact that you guys put those objects in there. I know it's going to make my life a lot easier because you can imagine what I'm doing is I'm looking at the source and I'm kind of manually doing it, but it's based off of the business too. So,
Exactly, and that's the key. And human beings are still really important in this process. We're a good way away from the AI and the robots taking all our jobs away. But yeah, the tool's there to support you and allow you to sort of understand the business model, understand the knowledge from the business. So that knowledge sponge that you were talking about, we're going to give you all of that knowledge in the enterprise models. We're going to give you good models of the source data assets, and then allow you to do your thinking and design work for the data vault structures.
sounds good. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks very much, and sorry
Thank
for the technological issues.
It's okay. We're tech people. We all are used to it. So, Janet?
Yes, let's see if I can share. I'll just press the big blue button that says share, see what happens. All right, so if there's no more questions, we can move on to our draw prizes. So these are all of our sponsors. Every time we have an event like this, all of our generous sponsors give $50 gift certificates to various things to lucky winners. How the winners are drawn is the names of all the people that apply for, join this meeting. If they've supplied their email addresses, they get put in this wheel of names tool, and we spin the wheel and the winners get picked. So for our first lucky winner for the resultant Amazon gift card is Barry McConnell. For the Data Rebels Amazon gift card, the winner is Maria Teresa Gonzalez, and she's a first-time DVNAUG event participant, joiner, I don't know what you call it. For Eon Collective, our Audible, $50 Audible gift card goes to Charles Powell, who's also a first-time event participant. And for the Warescape Amazon gift card, Amy Schneider is the lucky winner. For the Vault Speed one, Simon Fasanya, sorry, I apologize for butchering your name there, Simon. For Seven Rivers, the Amazon gift card goes to Lisa Burnett. For the ERStudio Amazon gift card, Doug Keys, the lucky winner. And last but not least, our Data Vault Amazon gift card winner is Crystal Zhang. And thank you very much congratulations to all the winners. And
thank you.
And yes, so I believe how this works is that the different companies get in touch with you, that we provide them your email address, and they will get in touch with you and work out how best to get you your gift cards. All right, so our next event, which is coming up pretty quickly here, December 4th, we're going to have a presentation on agile methodologies for successful data vaults. That's bound to be a very good one. And look, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be putting up the event in Meetup. So look for that. And if you ever want to see any of our past DVNAUG presentations, we have them on, I think they're still on Spotify for now, but we're looking to move them over into
YouTube.
YouTube. My brain just went blank.
It's okay.
We're looking to move them over into YouTube, but if there's something specific, feel free to reach out to Cindy if you want to get this one right away, or if there's some presentation, PowerPoint presentation or something that you want to see slides for, let Cindy know.
So I'm excited about that agile methodologies presentation that Scott Ambler.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
We didn't put the person on the slide.
Yeah, we need to update it because he's also going to cover, he's going to spend a little time, very little time, but sort of introduce the ideas, what he's working on. He's getting his master's in in AI right now, and he's working on some work, doing some work with data quality in AI. And so it's part of his thesis, and he's going to be presenting some of what he's found. Anyway, that'll be fun. And then hopefully that's a teaser for having him back to finish presenting on data quality and AI. So we have some things coming from him in the future too.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So I think that concludes the presentation for today. Thank you very much to everyone. Cindy, do you have any other parting words for us?
Just thank everyone, all the board for being here today, and all our sponsors for participating, and all of our wonderful attendees. And we look forward to seeing you in December.